Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is a man who spent 3 decades on death row in Pennsylvania for allegedly murdering a woman back in 1994. He was freed 2 years ago after prosecutors recognized that the case against him was deeply flawed. Daniel Gwynn, thank you very much for being our guest today.
Well, thank you for having me.
You were accused back in 1994 of the death of a woman. A fire broke out in a vacant building where she and others, including you, were staying. There have been many flaws that were found recently, but one of the key of the accusations was your own confession. How did this happen?
Okay, one of the corrections I must put forward is that I did not live in that building.
Okay.
I did not know those people. I lived in my grandmother's house 10, maybe 15 blocks away from there. So we never interacted. How I became a suspect is still a mystery. That's something that we're trying to figure out. How the confession came about is because we had Philadelphia homicide detectives who were trained in forcing or coercing confessions out of innocent individuals. Myself, I was a drug addict for 10 years. I was mentally unstable because I had suicidal ideations. I don't know all of the diagnosis because I still haven't been effectively diagnosed with everything that I've been going through. But at that time, the police officers, the homicide detectives, they had me inside that interrogation room. They utilized their tactics, their coercive tactics, to gain a confession, a false confession. And as it was pointed out, by experts, the confession, the false confession that I made did not match the crime scene evidence at all.
There was also, we don't have time to go into all the evidence, but a photo lineup where we recently learned your photo was not actually in the lineup. How can you explain that?
During the trial, we were told that there was a photo identification of me by the witnesses, right. Okay? And we asked the prosecutor in the court to say, hey, can we get that photo lineup so we can use, review it to see whether or not we could be challenged. The prosecutor said it doesn't exist, they don't have it, and came up with some elaborate story that how they don't need the photo lineup. The photo lineup was just to get me there. Now that they got me there, they was able to explain how the witnesses all identify me from this photo lineup and so forth and so forth. I'm like, okay, that don't make no sense, but we went through with the trial anyway without that photo lineup because the prosecutor said it didn't exist because it was unrelated. So then, 15 years later, my attorneys and my investigators, they found the photo lineup. Now, when they found the photo lineup, we run to the court. Hey, look at this photo lineup. This is the photo lineup that the prosecutor said my client was in. Daniel Gwynn is not in this photo lineup. So you must overturn this conviction. And guess what the court said? Oh, sorry, you're late. You're too late. You should have brought that 15 years ago.
In the end, you were freed in late February 2024, so over 2 years ago. What was your reaction when you learned that after 30 years you would get out of death row and of jail?
At first, I didn't believe it.
Right.
I thought, people was playing a joke on me. Because of how flawed our appellate system has been to me, I'm like, I didn't really have no hope of ever getting out. But I'm sitting in my cell and some individuals start hollering out my cell number, telling me, yeah, that's that guy right there. So I'm thinking I'm about to get jumped as soon as the door opens up for day room. So I come outside and instead there's guys out there clapping and giving me the nod, like, yeah, okay, homie, congratulations. I'm like, yo, what is going on? They said, yo, you ain't see the TV report? You're going home. You've been exonerated. So I'm thinking they messing with me, right? Because they like, mess with people's heads. So I go to the phone, and the guys, the phone banks were covered. So one of the inmates, he gets off the phone and hands me the phone. I'm like, okay, and then called my attorney. I said, yo, what's going on, man? I'm saying these people talking about that I'm coming home. I've been exonerated. He says, oh yeah, Danny, pack your bags. You coming home? I said, yeah, my bag's been packed. Come and get me now. I'm on the way to that door. So it was very joyful for me. It was, you know, unreal. I didn't believe it. Not even when I walked through the security to get out and walked through the gates and walked into the parking lot. And then I'm standing there in front of my attorney, in front of my friends, and they're hugging me and they say, yeah, we're here to take you home. And I'm like, okay. And I'm still waiting for security to come rush out there and drag me back in there. You know, that's how messed up they had me. And then we're riding in the car on the way to my family home, and I'm looking behind my shoulder to see if they were still. But it took a while for me to actually, like a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to actually feel that yes, I'm actually free.
And today?
Today, I feel like Julie Andrews on the top of the mountain singing to the sound of music, you know? And especially now, because I'm here and I'm doing a European tour. I was in Zurich, I was in Bern, Lausanne, and now here in Paris, speaking before the World Congress Against the Death Penalty, thanks to ECPM, Together Against the Death Penalty.
Yeah. I just want to go back to those years in jail, because obviously we say 30 years in the studio, but how did you cope? I mean, how was it? Obviously, it's very difficult to summarize in a few minutes, but I imagine it was very hard. And how did you manage to mentally fight this?
In the beginning, I didn't have no hope. I didn't feel like there was no way for me to find relief or get out of this situation. So I contemplated suicide. I sat there with a handful of pills in my hand and I was getting ready to take them to check out. But then thankfully I called home first and my cousin reminded me how strong I was. They reminded me, you know, that people still loved me, you know, and most of all, she reminded me that I was innocent. So then I put down those pills. Actually, I threw them in the toilet, flushed them, and then I got on my knees and prayed. And in that moment, it was like God saying, oh, you can hear me now. All right, let's get to work. He said, I've been here all the whole time. And in that moment, I had flashes of my history, of my misspent youth. And I was like, yeah, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I wouldn't have been, you know, surviving any of those incidents. So now today, I'm here in solitary confinement, and I took that opportunity to change my life. And I did it through art. When I started painting, I started to heal. And blessing after blessing came into my life because I couldn't afford art supplies. But Mumia Abu Jamal, he saw that I had talent.
A well-known prisoner. Obviously.
Yes, he's another death row prisoner. And at that time, he was sharing his wisdom with me. You know, he shared those supplies with me. He said, I see you got some talent. Let me see what you can do. And with that, I took off. I become an international award-winning artist. I become a teacher. I become a paralegal.
Obviously, and your T-shirts obviously is your message.
Yes.
Daniel Gwynn, 197. It's also because you were number 197 in terms of prisoners who were on death row being exonerated. That number is now a little bit over 200. You must have been thinking about this death row issue in the United States, and people like you. The statistics show that blacks are clearly a majority of them, sitting behind bars on death row, while the evidence show that they shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. What I saw once I started clearing my mind, you know, freeing it of the drugs, of the misconception of who I was and what I was, and I was able to work through my mental health issues. You know, I mean, they're still there, but I know how to live with them now, right? I discovered that this was a deliberate assault on the black community, and I was one of the victims of this assault. I mean, look at how many black individuals, you know, have been incarcerated, how our communities are decimated by drugs, violence, and and education. Our schools are still closing. They're not fixed up to where as though a hot day, designates, hey, school's out. Y'all can go on vacation because we had no air conditioner to bring you education today. Or we don't have the teachers. We don't have the space. It's always an excuse. Yeah, and though they got money to buy weapons and do other stupid things, but when I looked around on that death row unit, I saw a whole lot, way too many black individuals on there. And then today, I'm saying a lot of those same black individuals be exonerated, being removed because of wrongful incarceration.
As a conclusion, how do you feel today? Do you feel angry? Do you want justice? Do you want compensation? Or are you saying, this was my destiny and so be it?
No, today I feel forgiveness. I forgive those who trespassed against me, who put me in the situation that I was in, death row, solitary confinement. And I'm going to live my life, but I'm going to live my life in service to God and my community. I feel so blessed because in that struggle, I learned to become the man that you see before you today, a humble servant of God. Now, I'm going to go wherever God leads me. Now, as far as compensation, there is no compensation in the state of Pennsylvania for someone, not even apology for someone that they have wronged, for someone that they tried to kill. As far as seeking compensation, I hope to be able to move forward with a petition to seek compensation. And also what I plan to do is continue working with the community to try to help heal our community and bring us out of this situation. I know I can't do it alone. I'm not Moses or anything like that, or Joan of Arc. I'm just a humble servant of God that's coming out with my testimony to bring it to the people through my art.
Daniel Gwynn, I want to thank you very much for being our guest here on France 24. And thank you for watching this edition of Tête à Tête. Stay tuned for more news.